Okay, so I am charging up the Vexilar and getting ready for my first time out on the ice this winter. Hopefully it's not my last time out on the ice. And I wanted to make this video for quite a while. Just kind of has been something on my mind as far as watching all these videos with these new rods, these over the last, I don't know, 5-10 years, although this has always been going on in fishing. There's always a new thing. There's always something that you have to have if you want to catch fish. And so I want to make a video on just what is a good enough fishing rod. And specifically when I'm talking about good enough fishing rod and reel, I guess, combination, I'm talking about walleye fishing. So one of my main things, of course, is price. Now, I've been getting by with less for most of my life. So whether it's education, looks, what have you, especially finances, I break it down into three categories. There's good enough, which is kind of what I'm shooting for. What's good enough? There's gluttony, which there's plenty of videos out there on what I would consider just absolute gluttony. You don't need it. They want to tell you that you need it. And you know what? Hey, it's your money. So if you work hard for your money and you want to be able to spend it on stuff that you just feel great about, and you feel like, hey, this is the best rod out there, at least for this month, and you just want to keep up with that kind of stuff, have at it. If you're still in your parents' basement and you don't have a lot of responsibilities that you have to pay for, different things like that, and you have money, go ahead, buy that stuff. If you want to spend your money on Panoplex and different things like that, that's great. I guess I'm shooting for the people that just want to get on the ice. After watching a lot of these videos, I feel kind of bad that the message that I think that we're sending, especially a lot of the young fishermen out there, is that they need to come up with anywhere between 5 to 10 grand before they can get out ice fishing, which is absolutely ridiculous. You do not need that much to get out on the ice. The great thing about the ice is you can just walk out there. You can just pull out your gear and walk out there. You get a sled, you get some rods, and you can buy an old used auger, and you're going to do just fine. So I'm going to be looking at good enough. I guess I didn't say the third category. The third category is garbage. It takes a lot to get into garbage for me because I usually try to find a use for just about everything. But I will cover at least one garbage unit that I have picked up over the years. So let's just start out with the first stuff I bought. At that time, I was sold on 2 rod and reel combos. Both of them were St. Croix. And what I will say about these St. Croix, they still sell combos like this. They're the St. Croix Ice Premier, and this one's a 28-inch medium. The thing I'll say about these combos is I really like the rod, and the reel itself has, it's a solid construction. It's a smooth reel. But I've had all sorts of problems. If you watch any of my videos, I've had all sorts of problems with, as you see this kind of bend right here with the guide as it pulls back down, that when I am letting out line and then you flip over the guide, you actually have to manually with your finger bring the line, because it'll be sitting like that. So you have to bring the line back over here. And this has been on both of my St. Croix rods, or reels I should say. Even this one, which doesn't have exactly the same kind, but it'll still have that same thing where that line is kind of stuck up there, or it doesn't go back all the way. It doesn't naturally slide into this guide, and what has happened is it's caused me all sorts of problems where the line will either you set the hook and the bail just flips open all the way and then the line's going all over the place, or it'll start wrapping the line right around this drag set, where you're tightening the drag. And so it gets, and especially if it's this braided line, it'll get right underneath there and it'll just tangle up and you have all sorts of problems. So I've really worked on trying to work with these reels for 5 years now. And finally I've given up. I'm just going to take them off, even though they're, like I say, good construction and stuff. I mean, as far as they're solid, you can beat on these things and they're not breaking. They stayed smooth, but I just can't deal with this anymore. It's frustrating me. So I'm going to be replacing these reels today, and I'll get to the reels that I'm putting on there. I'm going to be transferring the line over because, as everybody knows, fishing line gets better with age. This is 10-pound Power Pro, 4 years aged, and I'll be transferring that over to my other reels, and I'll get to that later. So this is the 28 inch. The other one I have is the 32 inch, and what I will say about this is when I first got it, of course I hadn't been fishing very long. You know, I was sold on the idea of it has more rod to, you know, kind of load up and fight those big fish that I'd never seem to catch. But anyway, what I would say about this is when you are in a tent or a shack, and if you go out there ice fishing at all, you know, maybe early ice, it would be about 50-50. People out just walking around on the ice and people that are in a shack. You start getting into January and I mean it's 90-10. Most people are in a shack, right? And if you're this guy that has the 32 or 35 inch, you must not be fishing with friends, because then you're the guy that is taking up twice as much space as everyone else in the tent or the shack. You have to walk around all their gear and it just gets annoying, and I just don't see that there's a huge difference between this and a 28 inch, which is what I think is just fine. Really, I've had 25 to 28 inch rods that I think are all in that good enough category. Once you start getting above that, I think it's just absolute too much, unless you are just fishing out on the ice and that's all you do. You want this. I still don't know what the big gain on it is. Oh, and I guess I didn't mention the most important part, the price. This runs between $50 and $55, and that's kind of that good enough range I'm going to be talking about. It's that good enough is going to be right around 50 bucks. I am not going to be talking about stuff that's around 100 to 150 to 200 to 250 to 300. What I will say is this was 5 years ago, so I still, you know, would look at their options now for the St. Croix Premier ice combos. They may have changed the reels, and so that might be better. All right, let's move on to the next one. So this is the Garcia Veritas ice, I guess is what you would call it. And I got two of these combos, again, end of the year sale the following year. And these, what I'll say about these is, you know, for 35 bucks, this is probably a really nice, good enough setup. You know, you're talking 20, I believe these are, let's see here, 20, this one's 28 inch, and this is a medium. And maybe I'll say a little bit about that too. The difference between medium and medium light. Now, you really are going more by feel than by what it says, because one medium might be another brand's medium light. And so they all typically, you know, when you go to the store, will have this guy on them. And you can just kind of feel like how it's loading up, how much, you know, bounce there is on the end. And what you're looking for is for a jigging rod, you might have it, you know, generally you're looking at a medium for a jigging rod, just because you're looking for a little firmer backbone, a little bit more that when you have more control over the jig at the end of the rod. So if you imagine if your rod is kind of, you know, flimsy at the end and it's going like this, it's kind of waving around as you're jigging, you have less control over the subtle movements of that jig. And each jig is different. You know, some of the jigs, like, there's not a lot of, you know, it doesn't really matter that much, but other ones you can you know, make jump around and really get more intricate movement by having a little bit more control on the end of the rod. So that's why you'd be looking at something like a medium. Also with the medium is there's a little bit more backbone there, that when you're setting the hook, you're not needing to reel and set at the same time. Just a simple, you know, flick is going to set those hooks. And as we're talking about setting hooks, you know, there's some guys that like to give you what I would say is, like, there's the orangutan. This is the half orangutan, and then the if I can do this, and then there's the full orangutan, you know, where they're like jumping out of their seat and they're smashing the top of their rod into the top of the house. Completely unnecessary. Have you ever watched those underwater videos and these fish are getting like jerked up 10 feet? Makes no sense. Check your hooks. If they're sharp, that's just fine. Just a little bit like that is going to set those hooks. You don't need to give the orangutan. Anyway, back to the Garcia. Are they as nice as some of the, you know, like, are they as nice as the St. Croix? Probably not. But what I will say is I haven't had a problem with these guys, and the reels have been like I say, solid construction. I like the fact that it's a shorter stem here. They've had a fairly smooth drag. I haven't had any real difficulty with that drag. Not maybe as smooth as some of the other ones that I'll be talking about later, but it was definitely good enough for 35 bucks just to grab something when they're fishing in a shack for walleyes that I don't think they're going to be disappointed in. Okay. Next one, and this will be an example of garbage to some degree. This is a Myth 24-inch medium light, and this is a great example of what I was talking about before, because this medium light feels more like a medium to me. It's there's a lot of control on that tip. It's not super flimsy on that tip. And I would say that this is much more of, like I say, a medium for most other rods than a medium light. The reel that came with it, and that's what I want to talk about, is this guy. And even though it says like it's, you know, 5-to-2 ratio, I don't know, like 4 or 5 ball bearings or something, this drag is god awful. It's nothing more than some plastic clip in there. It's like a it's like when kids put in that baseball card in the spokes of their tire. You probably don't remember that. You guys probably don't even remember bikes. But anyway, it's horrible. It is a horrible reel. We took it out a couple times, and finally I just took them off and put on a different reel. I actually put on an HT that my old man probably had on one of his old rods, and that worked a lot better. But the rod itself wasn't bad, but as a combo, I wouldn't go that direction. And you know what? That was a coin flip. It was 20 bucks. Whenever you're buying a combo, they're probably going cheaper on something, right? They're putting it together so you can you know, get the whole thing at a lower price, but then there's going to be some corners cut in one direction or another. So the following year, as I was just kind of, again, looking at end of year deals and stuff like that, I went ahead and picked up this guy. Excuse me, it's called a Berkley Amp Ice, and it's a 28-inch medium light. I think I have a medium light and a medium, and you can see that there's a lot more bounce on the end of that. I don't know if you can see it, but that end has a lot more bounce than that medium. As far as, you know, this is a really sensitive tip. And the positive things about a sensitive tip and a medium light is, you know, the negative things is you don't have as much control over your jigging motion. But the positive thing is, as you're reeling up, that fish is biting the hook or biting your bait, and you can feel the fish and they can't feel you. Now with the mediums, to some degree that can be true too. If you're good enough about your ability to feel the bite, then you can probably get away with the fish not feeling you on a medium as well. But this really helps, and I typically use these not so much for jigging, but for my dead stick. And so, you know, I can lift up and I can feel that, you know, you can just see the subtle tip, you know, kind of bend as you're reeling up, and you can feel that thing is on. And at that time, what I do typically is I use the reel set. And so I have a hand on the reel while I'm lifting up, and as soon as I feel that on, I'm just lifting up gently and reeling at the same time. So it's this kind of motion where you're just lifting up and reeling, and that's enough. That is enough to set this hook. You do not need to do the orangutan, okay? So you're lifting up, you feel that kind of just a little bit of weight on the end of that rod. They still can't feel you, and you just lift up a little higher and reel at the same time. It's a reel set, and you've got it. So these guys, the great thing about these guys, $15. And I got at the end of the year for $10 on a rod that I'm completely happy with. If I was ever like setting up my boys for new rods or whatever, what a great way to buy a rod that if they, you know, break or something like that, you're not all bent out of shape over. It's 10 bucks. So would I buy these again? You bet. Okay, so the last one I'm going to talk about is this number 13 Wicked Ice, and this is one I picked up last year, and again, like at the end of the year, which was when I buy my stuff, it was on sale, like 20% off, so I got it for $25. It starts at $30. And I actually bought what they had, and they didn't have a lot left. No, I don't need to grab it. Anyway, it was a 25-inch medium, and I really liked the action on this. I really liked the kind of splitting the middle, in that sense of It's a medium, so you feel like you've got that control at the end, but I still feel like there's a nice amount of sensitivity on it. It's not a pool cue. And so I had the only one they had was a 25-inch. I got that. I really liked it, so I went back and I bought this online this year, full price at Dick's online for $30. So $30 for a reel, or for a rod. Very short end. Of course, this is not all steel. This is plastic, but that's just fine. It does have, at least you're not taping it up. You can pull this out and put in either, one that has a small foot or a big foot. Anyone will work in there. And so this is kind of my ultimate good enough. I guess, I don't know what I would say. I would say that if you're going cheap, this Berkley Amp Ice, really nice option if you really just want to go cheap and you don't want to worry about if you're breaking it or not. If you want to go a little bit higher but you don't want to go into the gluttony range, this 13 Wicked Ice is a really nice rod. Now the reel that I put with it, and that I put with just about everything that I have now, is this Pflueger Trion 20. And I think now they have like a 20X and a 20B, I'm not sure, but when I bought them they were just 20. And this guy is usually $30. I bought it for, again, I just kind of wait online until they go on sale. I bought them for $25, and then I buy a couple at a time. One of the things I really like, there's been this big, switch over the last, like, whatever, I can't remember, 10 years or so, where they have these long curved stems so that the stem goes back up there. And I don't know, maybe there's some belief that makes the drag smoother or makes the reeling better or whatever it might be. Maybe it doesn't, I'm not quite sure what the purpose is for this long stem, but all I know is it makes it harder to pack. So when you're trying to pack it into cases and stuff, it limits how much, watch out for the hooks there, buddy, it limits how much you can put in a case. And so I really like the shorter stem here. I don't care that it doesn't match perfectly up, but these Pfluegers are super smooth. It's pretty tight there. They've got the back reel, they've got the smooth drag, and they feel really smooth when you're reeling them. So great reel. This rod and reel combo, then 25 and 30, you're talking about $55, which is the same amount as what I bought for the St. Croix in the beginning. But I'm very happy with this, and if you bought this one, if you use these same two links that I'm going to put in there, I don't think you'd be disappointed at all. So yeah, so that's about it as far as, again, I'll put the links of the stuff that I've bought below, except for the garbage one. So if you are looking to buy something for your husband, your wife, your kids, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, then I would encourage you to look at these two guys, either direction. Whether it's you can buy the Pflueger and put it on either rod. You can just spend, again, $10 to $15 depending on when you buy it on this Berkley Amp Ice, or you can go this direction with the 13 Wicked, and I think you'll be really happy. So hope you liked this video. I hope it was helpful. Look forward to putting out some more on the ice or in the ice house videos soon.